What's going on, guys? Battle mode is just around the corner. We're going to talk about cards that are not only great on the ladder, but they're going to be insane in battle mode. We're also going to talk about no Zabu, no Surf, no problem. If you don't have the season passes, what are the best decks and cards you can use to climb reliably? What are the best cards that nobody is using? And lastly, we're going to talk about upcoming unreleased cards that are going to majorly change Snap and take a look into what kind of archetypes are going to be supercharged by these new cards incoming. We're going to talk all about that and more on today's episode of the Snapchat, which today is joined to me by Mr. Molt. Now, Molt, you are not Alex. Everybody, Alex, big congratulations in the comment section. Alex is I can't say he's a dad. He's already a dad, but he's a new dad of a new baby. And we have been awesome enough to have Molt here on the Snapchat. Molt, thank you for joining us today, bud.
Of course, man. I've been wanting to, so I'm happy that happy we got the opportunity to sit down and chat for a little bit.
Absolutely. And now people can absolutely see that we're both at the same place at the same time. We're not the same person.
Nope, we're not the same person.
I like the multiverse idea, though. I like the idea that we're in the same, just different timelines, you know?
Hilarious.
Well, guys, we give Alex our best, and today we only have one episode per se instead of having one on my channel and one on Molt's channel or on Alex's. We've got 4 subjects that we're going to break down today, and all of them are pretty freaking great. We're going to be talking about, again, the cards that will be insane in battle mode. Battle mode comes out January 31st is what they're aiming for. That's like 13 days away, man.
It's crazy. It's going to fly by.
Probably the biggest update by far that we've seen in Snap. So yeah, I'm not Cozy. I'm Sponsor Cozy from a different part of the multiverse, here to tell you about today's video sponsor. Hey, cool. We're in the middle of a Raid Shadow Legends. Now, I love that you can play Raid both on your PC and on the go, and they've got a brand new faction, the Sylvan Watchers, who made their home in Mistwood, a huge jungle. Now, don't expect a walk in the park if you try to visit the Sylvan Watchers. The beasts don't kill you, the Sylvan probably will for trespassing. Now, there's loads of character variety in this faction, with characters being tuned with nature. Some got plants, some have mushrooms, some are even trees. I love trees. The time is now to vote for your favorite starter champion. Download Raid Shadow Legends from the links below. Copy in your game player ID and go to championselect.polarium.com. Simply enter in your ID and vote for your chosen champion, with all eligible entrants able to win awesome in-game and real prizes. That's going to be including epic and legendary champions and even Amazon gift cards worth up to $1,000. Now, Raid also added legendary MMA fighter Ronda Rousey. She comes equipped with extremely powerful skills to take on some powerful bosses. All you've got to do is log in and play Raid for 7 days between now and February 20th. And if you haven't started playing Raid yet, check the link in the description or scan my QR code right here on screen and you'll get the unique bonuses worth $30. We're talking a free champion, Chonaru, 200k silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 epic skill tome. All this treasure will be waiting for you here, available for the next 30 days for new players only. So, okay, before we jump into the subjects, let's go and just talk about how was the week of Snap. We're now into, what, the second, third week of January. How's it going for you? How's the rank season? I've seen a lot of people say it feels a bit tougher to climb. I felt like last season was way worse to climb with Leech and Leader. How's it going for you?
It's not bad. I mean, it's pretty typical. I'm sitting at 96 right now. I've made it to 99 twice. And dude, the last 2 seasons before this, I made it to 99 and never hit infinite.
Oh, dude, that's so close. But this week in Snap, we got a few things. As of today, infinite players are those that are striving for infinite. Michael, Molt, I am so happy about this. We've been getting titles the last couple of seasons, and there's nothing more or less, should I say, enticing than a title at the end of a long grind to infinite. So I'm going to throw it on screen. They added this gold back card, and I've got to say, this is the perfect solution. It's not unique to just, it's not a new design, but having the season pass card, do you think this is definitely worth climbing now and kind of satisfies the quench that you had for climbing?
Yeah, I definitely think that I think you have 2 different camps. So you have the camps of people that spend money in the game and don't necessarily need tokens. So they're like, oh, sick, look at this new variant of a card back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then you have the camp of other people who are free to play in Reaching Infinite. And for them, I think it's like, like 500 tokens. Can we give them 500 tokens or something? You know, just so they can get something with it. Yeah. But this is definitely a step in the right direction, because I think everybody was annoyed by the title. It's like, they're cool, but at the same time, it's like, come on.
No one, yeah, I know. It's like not only in the season pass, not only in the collection reserves, but then also just getting them at the end of Infinite. I was like, it's brutal. So we had that come out. That was huge. Obviously, we had a brand new card, Shayna, and I'm actually seeing decent things about Shayna. I know a lot of people can't get excited. You can't get the card yet, but it's cool to see that it's better than anticipated from what I've seen.
Right. Yeah, and I think it kind of brings a little bit of life back to an archetype that you don't necessarily see higher up in collection levels with the Khazar Blue Marvel like sort of deal. So it's fun to kind of relive that by adding those one-cost cards and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go and let's jump in. We've got a lot of subjects to talk about today. 4 great ones. Let's start with cards that will be insane in battle mode. So, guys, again, battle mode January 31st. And where this subject spawned is in ladder. The cards, the decks you play are going to be vastly different than battle mode. Now, battle mode, you're going to be playing the same deck multiple times. So things like a hidden Gambit destruction behind Invisible Woman, that's great.
Right.
But then they know it's coming. And it's so difficult to somewhat counter, but at least you know what you're looking for, right?
Right.
So, Molt, I want us to talk about not just decks, but more of cards that you think will have a huge advantage and probably increase in that kind of, if you were going to rate them on a tier list, like they're going from B to S or B to A or whatever because of being able to reuse them reliably. I'm going to let you start. Hit me with a card that you think is going to be much better in battle mode compared to regular play.
All right, so I think it's and mine are probably going to be a little more low key than yours, but that's how I like to play. I think it's what's going to be important about battle mode is playing cards that aren't necessarily counterable. You know, like you said, if someone's playing an Invisible Woman or whatever, you know what the play is. I recently have been spending a lot of time in my Surfer deck playing Nakia, because you, as my opponent, don't know what Nakia is going to hit. So you might think to yourself, like, okay, it's turn 5, he's going to play this card, but do you know whether Nakia hit it or not? So your calculations are going to be a little bit more off. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, I imagine he's going to play Captain Marvel or something like that. The stat line could be different. And you might be prepping for that to come out, but because I have that 2 extra power that you're not prepared for, you could run into some issues. Now, yeah, you can counter it turn 3 with Cosmo if you get that 33% guess of where I might play it, but ultimately you don't know what it's hitting in my hand, and that's something that I can kind of hide until turn 4, turn 5, turn 6, and kind of mess with you there.
I don't think I would have even ever thought about Nakia. In fact, I would have put her on more of like the worst cards list, but you're right. It is. It's something that like your opponent doesn't know, and I love that you're on that subject because a lot of the cards that I have are all about that, right? It's the mind games, the having your opponent second guess themselves, and you're right, Nakia, like, I won't know what it hits. You would have to make a deck that it could kind of flavor on a bunch of cards, like, right. But I that's a good opener. All right, so that's a great first one. That leads me to right when battle mode was announced, a card that I already love, that I knew that I was going to probably go all in on for battle mode, is none other than our boy Mysterio. And I don't know about you, Mysterio has long been one of my favorites in Snap for a while. Even with the nerf, he's still a great card at 2/4. I think he's the definition of a card that you're going to be able to play. In fact, Bishop Mysterio might be in the majority of my competitive decks, and so you never know where I'm going. And even just 2 power of unexpected boost, it is enough to win games consecutively. Mysterio might be the MVP.
Yeah, for sure. I've always loved Mysterio in that regard, and a lot of times you see it in the destroy shell. So as the game goes on, you can start to kind of be like, okay, from a 33% chance of guessing where this is, now I can look at it and be like, oh, they just destroyed that one. So let me kind of put myself in their head and be like, okay, they destroyed that one. It looks like they'd probably want 4 power there, and you can kind of start to funnel it in.
Yep.
But if you play it outside of that destroy shell and keep them all alive, and maybe say play Mojo with it to give you that 6 extra power on a location or something along those lines to get a buff from the clones, then they're not going to know where that 4 power is. You almost have to keep them all alive and, you know, keep them off their feet the whole time.
And then you have like, Patriot or the Nova, like things that can buff, those other illusions. I think that's going to be, for me, I always go with locations. I'm like, all right, would they play it into negative zone? I'm like, do they want the 1? Or maybe they think I wouldn't think they're going to play it into, it's like this, this mind game. So I think Mysterio fits in that. And honestly, if we're being candid about it, I think move in general, move is already going to go up as the game progresses. We'll talk about that later. Here's the thing, Mole. Move techs are kind of that definition. Now, you can't do the Heimdall staple, right?
Nope.
But if you're saying cards like Cloak, not so much, but cards like Vision, again, it's that mind game. Am I going to move it? Am I not going to move it?
Right.
Is Vision one that you think would be? I think he's up there too.
Yeah, Vision's definitely a sneaky one. And a lot of people who don't dive deep into move categorize move as Heimdall, because it's like when you think about an archetype, you always think about, all right, what's the big heavy hitter?
Yeah.
For me, the heavy hitter in move is not Heimdall. The heavy hitter for me is like turn 5 playing Cloak and then having Vulture down, moving Vulture, and then playing Doctor Strange and getting that Vulture up to, what is it at that point? 13 power, whatever it may be. Like there's so many opportunities to just catch people off guard with move, and you can always bring Heimdall, especially in battle mode. Like you were saying, if you played 5 matches or 4 matches, whatever it is, and you don't touch Heimdall till the end, dude, your opponent's going to be freaking out the whole time.
Yeah.
They're going to be like second guessing themselves. Is it going to be Heimdall? Is it going to be Heimdall? And then they just misplay because you don't play Heimdall, and then you do play Heimdall.
It's funny because of that, like because of Heimdall, I feel like, and this card's already so good in regular rank climbing, but on that note, and I actually didn't plan to talk about it, but I think White Queen will be on so many decks because it doesn't matter if they know what you're playing. It's like, does he have the Heimdall? That's what I want to know, So I think, White Queen will get that from it. But yeah, move altogether. I do think that there's enough to do in move decks, and you made a great point. And everybody looks at decks differently. You said, Cloak, Vulture, Doctor Strange. I think Moon Girl and Miles Morales and cloaking 2 Miles and having 2, there's a lot of different ways to play move. So do you have another one on the top of your list? I got a few more. I'm just curious which, you got anything else?
So I have a couple, but they also kind of work together.
Okay.
In that same vein of not necessarily being counterable.
Okay.
And it's Collector, Falcon, and Beast.
Ooh.
You don't see much of the bounce archetype because it is kind of difficult to make work effectively. But the fact that Beast pulls back cards that then are cheaper and allows you to play them in a different location. Like you don't know if I have Falcon or if I have Beast. So if I'm playing that style of deck and one game I'm able to pull everything back with Beast and the next game I play Falcon instead because I don't have Beast, like different things happen with that and the interactions are different. And so, I mean, they're just so much fun, and you can play Angela in that type of archetype and get Angela huge, man. Like you throw Angela down, you stack 2 other cards on her, and then you play Beast. Angela comes back already buffed, and then you can stack it again, especially if you have like Nightcrawler and something like that. Like an Angela, like how are you going to counter that? How are you going to deal with a 210 or 212, whatever that I have down? You know what I mean?
Dude, I saw somebody do that. I got my tail kicked because someone did an Angela, but their hand was full. But they did the calculation to where Beast took all the cards back from Angela, left Angela because the hand was full, and then she stayed on there. And I was like, what just happened? I love that. And funny enough, Beast was who I was going to talk about as a card that no one's playing. And it gets played. Bounce is I mean, compared to beta, it's gone. I mean, Bounce was, at one point, Collected was like almost one of the better cards in the game. So that's a great one. I enjoy that. So a couple others I had on the board. We don't have to dive into them crazy, but first, I just want to say in general, hybrid decks. For a great example, this one's a 0 kind of toxic deck, right? You have 2 routes to go. Am I going to bomb you with my toxic stuff, or am I going to try to just do my Shuri, spread, Arnim Zola, power win? I think it's going to open up the creativity. But I think hybrid decks are going to go a long way. And talk about surprising your opponent now. You're hoping that they just look at the most popular lists and like, you know, you have something different. But surprising your opponent so different into competitive battles. I also think the Goblin Bros. I want your opinion on this because I think obviously Green Goblin and Hobgoblin to a lesser extent. But I think these two, like, why not in battle mode, right?
Right.
You can mess up any combo.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it is. It's not the -3 stat line that makes goblins good. It's throwing it on the location that gives you energy. I forgot the name of it right now. Throwing that on there. Throwing it onto Space Throne. Throwing it onto someone who plays an Angela or a Wong or something like that. Because even if you do throw it onto a Wong location, it would go over to your side and then come back anyways if they played Odin or whatever because of...
Yep.
Right?
Yeah,
yeah. So... the thing about goblins, a lot of people look at them and they're like, oh, -3, but that's not what we see it for. It's like, what can I mess up? Because really, if you throw it on an Angela, it's really a -5 because they now can't add that 2 extra power to that Angela location. And so you have to think about it in that sense, like, this is a 3-5 for me on this location, which isn't a bad stat line.
Yeah, it's a catch-all too, right? Yeah, it's a catch-all that you can mess up. Like, it doesn't matter, like, that first game, right? The first games in competitive battles are going to be the sweatiest because you're like, all right, what am I playing? Well, this just kind of ensures that you're going to be able to do pretty well. You know, Hobgoblin, I would use more for the, like, if you had a Shuri deck anyway, and then you could then decide, okay, do I want to nuke a location or, you know, boost a location? I'm going to be interested. Does disrupt decks, does debris get an insane amount of play, right? Just messing up a wide variety. Because talk about, like, check this out. Like, Mysterio and his illusions, debris, Patriot. Like, yeah, it's not a Patriot deck to its full degree, but if you have ways to take any advantage of those, of the rocks and the card fill, I think board space is going to be that constant battle. In battle mode, you know. So lastly on the subject, how about tech cards? Like, how do you think you're going to go about it, Mold? Do you think you're going to do a couple tech cards in your deck? Do you, like, you know, because you can't just do Cosmo because then they know, and then what if they're not playing on reveal? Do you do one Cosmo, one Enchantress? How are you going to go about it?
Yeah, I feel like so much of it for me, like when it comes to my playstyle in games in general, like a lot of people know that I come from Clash Royale. In that game, I was always a cycle player. I liked playing cheap stuff that was fun. So like I almost always choose Rogue over Enchantress. Obviously, there are better scenarios for each because Enchantress can completely shut down a lane that has multiple ongoings. And sometimes Rogue can bite you in the butt and it could grab something else. Say they're protecting their dino by Lizard or something, and you're like, oh, man. But yeah, I feel like generally I would have probably 3 different type things that can help out, whether that's a Storm, a Cosmo, a Shang-Chi, maybe something that I can move. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because, like you said, if they're not playing on reveal, then Cosmo's a wasted card in your deck.
Yeah, for me, it's almost like I'm going to try to play tech cards that both give me a bonus and then they also serve as that tech card. So, great example, Killmonger, right? Obviously, then play the Nova. Or you just said, Rogue's a great example, but with Enchantress, let's say, okay, well, if you have like a 0 deck or you include something like Typhoid or something like that, then okay, all of a sudden, you don't have to play it as a tech card. You can kind of help yourself with it, right? I think that's how I'll probably go about tech cards. I want to hear from you guys what cards you think are going to be especially pretty dang good in battle mode. We definitely missed. There's so many to talk about.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm excited. And just the amount of fun that we can have. Like, that's the cool thing about it is we can go sweaty for a little bit and then it's like, yo, let's see what type of ridiculous stuff we can make happen.
Absolutely. And yeah, anywhere from the extremely fun creator versus creator battles to actual competitive tournaments, both are just going to be, honestly, I think it's a whole new game. I really do. It turns from an individual game to more of a community game, even more so. So, all right, so let's go to the next subject, Molt. We've got no surf, no Zabu, not no service, but no problem. This is more about those players, or you guys that you're pure free to play. You don't do the season passes. You are in pool 3. Heck, let's just pretend, Molt, that someone doesn't have any tokens. They don't have anything. So this is just pool 3 without these 2 cards. Obviously, guys, they're great cards. Zabu's insane. Surf is fantastic. But I will continue to say your deck is about what do you say, 15, 20%? How much do you want to say is your deck weighted for your infinite climb, in your opinion?
Oh man. I feel like it's, I don't know, maybe 30% or so. And obviously a lot of it is, the majority of it is knowing when to retreat. Like you cannot be prideful and climb on the ladder, because sometimes I get way too arrogant and I'm like, I'm going to show this guy who's boss. And then I end up losing 8 and I'm like, oh gosh, I should have just retreated for 2 or 1.
Right. Absolutely. And that's, I mean, here's the thing. We say that with the fact of like, if you built like the worst deck of all time, like obviously you need a decent deck to climb. Let's talk about decks though that are strong. And listen, I know sometimes people are sick about talking about it, but we kind of have to go back to the one guy that just, to me, is not only just is he great for free to play, but we're seeing the top players with every card at 300 plus rank use them. Devil Dinosaur is just a stat line in a plug and play card at that. You can stick by the Daredevil, Professor X, 2 Devils kind of deck is what they call it. I think what I called it actually. And even Leader in there if you're feeling extra toxic. That deck right there, or even without some of those pool 3 cards, is good enough. Yeah,
no, I definitely agree. And Devil Dinosaur was one of the ones on my list that you can just kind of think of, because not only do you play it turn 5, and obviously you have to protect it because there are things like Shang-Chi and especially Rogue. Like I said earlier, I like playing Rogue. When I see a Devil Dino, I'm like, give me that power.
Yep.
But a lot of times I'm playing it in a cycle deck, so I don't really get as much. It's more of just stealing it. But not only just the play that you can do with Devil Dino itself, the other cards that work cohesively with Devil Dinosaur, like Collector and things like that, are just really, really good. Like, you have so many cards that you're going to be playing to draw stuff into your deck. If you play something like Collector or other things like that just give you that extra little boost of power on another location, then you're solid. And then if you're lucky enough to have Mystique, then final turn, you play Mystique and then Agent Coulson if you have it, or whatever.
Yep, exactly, guys. And the thing is, you can legit combine him. You throw Sunspot early on, and then you can just play Sentry every turn after that, and
right.
and that will be enough. And for those that are finding it tough, because Devil Dinosaur rewards you for having cards in your hand, play the Cosmo on 3, try to get a tech out of it. Cool. See if you can get the tech out of it, and then just play Devil on top of that Cosmo. Guess what?
Yep.
No Enchantress, no Rogue. He is safe, right? And you have your stat line. So, I know he's been a staple since Pool 1, Pool 2, guys, but he still is. And right now, if you want to climb, this is one that I suggest. Do you have a card, a list that you like, that you think is pretty dang dependable to climb?
Yeah, so this is one that I played. This was the first deck that I made it to Infinite with. I don't know what season it was, season 2, season 3, or whatever.
Okay.
It is a Sarah deck, and funny enough, on my free-to-play account, I'm at rank 800, and I unlocked Sarah on it. So some people have that potential of getting Sarah. But the thing about Sarah is people expect lots of stuff after Sarah. They expect for you to play a lot of cards. And so this goes down that same vein that I was talking about of catching people off guard and using that to end up winning games. So for me, what I would do is... and this comes down to my boy, one of my favorites in the game, Omega Red. He's sneaky, man. Sneaky hidden. You play him down, and then you play Sarah, and then final turn, you can play Lady Sif and Ghost Rider, discarding Infinite on that Omega Red location and stacking it. Like, literally, that's the deck that I climbed to Infinite with, and nobody was ready for that to happen. And final turn, you could play Ghost Rider Omega Red and completely hide the Omega Red so they don't know that it's coming, and you just catch people off guard with it. And you just have other powerful cards in it, like Sunspot, Armor, Cosmo, Lizard, things like that you can play if you don't get that perfect sort of stat line. And if you don't see Infinite, you can even discard Sarah and pull Sarah down one turn early with that Ghost Rider to help you play some of those other cards and try and get that potential power.
I love that, man. Yeah. That is awesome, because funny enough, Sarah was next on my list, and mine was going to be the more traditional approach of, like slamming in the cards. And the reason why Sarah Control is just such a popular deck to climb with, first of all, I love the point you made of the opponent, again, not expecting. Like, dude, no one's expected the Omega Red with the slam of the Infinite on there. But, you know, for me, that Sarah Control, guys, the reason this deck is so sound, not only is it just great for the comeback potential, I'm going to throw it on the screen here, audio listeners. I can read off the majority of it. But the reason it's so sound is I just think it teaches you every fundamental that you need to know when climbing and snap. It teaches you when to counter, how to counter. It teaches you initiative. It teaches you when to leave and when to stay. And then ultimately it teaches you how to do the right combos to win. That's all of them. If you can master those things, then you really have a good chance to win. And yes, you need Sarah and you do need Mysterio. You can do Scorpion. If you want dependable, you do need to have Mysterio. But we just kind of sold him anyway of being a great card. Another thing is just the counter deck in general with Sarah, right? So if you Sarah's control's so great because you counter with Enchantress, you have Rogue, you have Shang-Chi, but if you don't have her and you happen to, let's say, pull Magic, I used to play this. I think this was my first Infinite deck, the post credits, and I would play Magic, albeit she was better back then, but you could still play her the exact same.
Right.
You play Magic, and then you just see, you're like, all right, turn 6, do what you need to do. Let's see what you're gonna do, and you're holding the counters to whatever their big master plan is, right?
Right.
They can prepare a bit better because it's turn 5, but they still didn't plan their deck necessarily for that turn 7. So I think that definitely post credits is one that I love a lot too. Do you have any others that you like?
That was the main one.
Yep.
But I mean, along that line of Sarah, like the cool thing about Sarah in general is the different things you can do on that final turn. Like you said, if it's the meta and you don't want to play it, if you play it differently than the way that everyone else is playing it, then you're going to win more than the people that are playing it the popular way, if you will. And so that's why when I did it that way, and you just catch people off guard.
All right, so let's go and hop to the next subject, guys. The best cards nobody's using. I know we've touched on some of these. Everybody, looks at the same deck list, and we see it time and time again. And Snap doesn't have that many bad cards. But what are cards that you're using or you've seen used that just they need to be played more? They're too good.
Yeah. I mean, one of them I already mentioned, it's Omega Red. Okay. And we are seeing it a little bit more with Zabu coming out, but still not even as much as I think is viable. I mean, what is that? That's a 413 pretty much when it goes down, like the power stat line that it adds out, adding 4 power to all other locations. So it doesn't get messed up like Mr. Fantastic does. Yep. Like it will add that 4 to those other locations. Now, obviously there is that commitment of winning by 10 power in order to make that activate. But at the same time, you can use Omega Red kind of like people use Lizard as a card that forces people to play on that location. Like when people play Lizard, a lot of times everyone's like, oh, well, it has a negative ongoing. I have to fill out this location. Like, why would I not? And it's like, I just baited you in. And the same thing with Omega Red. They're not trying to win that location. They're trying to stop you from winning it by 10. And so that gives you that extra buffer too of, if you can get that buff from those from that 4 power on other locations, great. But otherwise, you can just stress people out and try and make them to where you're only winning that location by 9 or something, and then you can play on other locations. So there's a couple of different ways to approach Omega Red.
Next card I want to talk about, and we'll both start with cards that we already kind of mentioned. Agent Coulson. So let me tell you this. Agent Coulson is giving you 2 cards. I think Agent Coulson might be my favorite card for battle mode. Because you're going to be getting 2 random cards, and it's not Agent 13. It's not this pool. You're not going to be getting Quake or whatever. Agent Coulson's going to give you a 4 and a 5 cost card. Now, number 1, battle mode, fantastic, right? Because you've got 2 options. Your opponent is never going to know. It doesn't matter how many times they play you, and that's why I have him right there with Mysterio, if I'm being honest. However, he's a card just in general that I think is great. Now, I don't think you should buy. I'm not saying get him with your tokens, but if you have them, the thing is, if we go to 4 and 5 cost mold, tell me, right? And there's definitely some, and there's some that are more archetype specific, right? Archetype specific. But look at these options. Yes, you can either not use them, so you just have them in your hand, which is fine.
Right.
But for the most part, as we blow by Crystal, for the most part, there's not I would say there's an 80-20% split of 4-cost cards that you can use and 5-cost cards you can use, especially 5-cost. Look at 5. Tell me a 5-cost card that if it came up, you're mad. Like, I'll kind of go through, right? So these are for audio listeners. We have Iron Man, Taskmaster.
Only one would be probably Ronin. Is the one where I'd be like, maybe, well, and maybe Nick Fury, but yeah, for the most part, it's like they're not bad. And the cool thing, like you said about Agent Coulson, is it allows you to bring something into your deck that doesn't fit the current archetype that you're playing. So it's unexpected. People are expecting you to do X, Y, and Z. And especially if you're playing a Devil Dino deck, which a lot of times people will do with Agent Coulson, it brings in something completely different to where, say, turn 5, you play Professor X instead. They're like, what the heck? I was expecting a Devil Dino, and you just lock down that location, and then you play down Devil Dino on the other side. Yeah, I agree. I think that there's some super cool opportunities to just, again, be unpredictable, which is what makes you successful in this game, especially when you're climbing and going up against predictable decks. To be unpredictable makes you stand out and makes you have that opportunity to catch people off guard and honestly get more cubes.
Right. And you're getting 3-4 value. It's not like you're not even, you're still getting decent initiative, because initiative is what it's all about, like usually controlling the game. You're still getting decent initiative. And so like outside of a couple of things, like a Wong can feel weird if you don't have those cards. But yeah, more on the 5-cost cards where I'm like Leech, Magic, Black Panther, a Claw coming out of nowhere. I've won more games than I've lost, and I've wanted to make a whole video on the damn guy because I'm a fan, dude. I'm a fan of Agents. So top of my list. Hit me with another.
Oh yeah, another one. You actually just mentioned him. Claw is one that I think people aren't ready for. Like it's a 5/10 stat line, obviously not in one location. But sometimes it is reliant on specific locations to where, say, the big house is on the left or the big house is on the middle and you can't play them there. It can kind of locationally mess you up. But being able to add that, and a lot of times I think about these as final turn plays, because when people think of 5 costs, they're like, oh, I have to play that on turn 5. No one's expecting a Claw final turn. You know what I mean? Especially if you play Dino turn 5 and then Agent 13 and Claw on turn 6. People are like, what the heck are you talking about? And I mean, Claw's just nasty. Like, it doesn't have to go in an ongoing deck.
My biggest gripe, Second Dinner, if you're listening, the Pixel Claw, he's pointing this way, but his power goes the other way. It kills me. I'm like, come on. It's so little. It's such a little, it's a little gripe. And as far as pixel variants, I think it kind of slaps. I like that. And I know that you're a fan of this next card because we both kind of have, I know we've talked about it before and it's right here. So I'm just going to go to it. And I happen to have a variant that's just beautiful. Spider-Woman molds. Spider-Woman. We've got a 5/11 potential.
5/11 on a full location, yeah.
A 5/11. Hey, death is only 12. Like a 5/11, like Spider-Woman, for whatever reason, and I think the most is for me at least is not. I don't see her in like Lockjaw, man. I love her in Lockjaw. I love her in Jubilee Casino kind of style decks. She doesn't work everywhere, honestly. I'm kind of responsible not playing her enough myself. And it's like, why aren't we playing her? I don't know, because she's good.
Yeah, she is really good. I don't know either. I think that sometimes it scares people, just like you don't see Mojo played as much, even though Mojo is a solid card.
Yeah.
It's all about when you play it.
Yes.
You don't want people to know that you have Mojo, because then they avoid the location. And you don't want people to, I guess people won't really be able to know that you're going to play Spider-Woman. But if you think about Spider-Woman just in its core, that 5/11 is really, really strong. Now, if you're going up against somebody who's playing Iron Man, it's like, oh, wow, okay, so no longer is it 5/11, it's actually 5/12 at that point, because that's -2 for, and no, it's more than that, depending on all the cards on the location.
Much more than it could be, yeah.
Yeah, so like that, Cerebro decks completely screws over a location. Like that location's shut down because
the whole
it's no
deck?
longer.
Yeah, right?
It doesn't even matter what it is. It's no longer getting that buff. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird now that we're talking about it. Like, why the heck do people not play a 5'11" stat line more? I don't know.
It's funny because a lot of the times I'm like, no one's playing these cards, and I look at it, I'm like, I'm not playing these cards, and it's because we follow suit to kind of what the general public is doing, right? But the next card that I think is one that I'm starting to get a lot more kind of. I'll tell you this: I made a Galactus guide a couple days ago, and I'll be honest, I only used him in Galactus decks. And I'm kind of sold on him. And I'll tell you why. Combos are becoming more important. I feel like just combo decks. Zabu is a good example. Wong decks.
Yeah.
A lot of decks out there. And if you're missing one piece, you're done. On average, you have 3 cards left in your deck whenever you end the game. And to even reduce that down to 2 is astronomical math, right?
Right.
Adam Warlock, I think, is just not played enough. And he is scary to play. I get it.
He is scary to play.
He is scary to play, but this is what kind of got me into him, okay? Number one.
The variant is sick.
Isn't it sick? Yeah, I know. The variant for audio users, he almost looks like a track star Adam Warlock. And I know he's going to be in the new Guardians too, which coming out, which is exciting, and I think he's like in his infant stage is what James Gunn said. But anyway, so Adam Warlock, he is scary to play, but he's serving so many purposes. Number one, you know your opponent is going to gun for wherever. So you're forcing your opponent's hand.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. You're forcing your opponent's hand. Number two, there's cards that you can combine with him. I'll talk about in a second. But I can't tell you guys how many times Atlantis is on their turn 2. And typically people save Atlantis for like maybe turn 4 or 5. And I throw him on there. I get the 1 pull. The misconception of Adam is people think, oh, I'm only going to get 1 card, maybe 2. Guys, you only really need 1 more card pull. Like, even if you get the 1 more, he is dead worth it. And I combine that with, and this is through talking with a guy named Willow, great guy for my Galactus guide. He's played like, I don't know, 1,000 games on Galactus. The Yellow Jacket, who is a card that I avoided. Yellow Jacket, Adam Warlock, same turn 2. You have a great odds to get that 1 card pull. So if you are playing a Zabu deck or a very combo heavy deck, you have to have these 2 cards. This belongs in most combo decks. It's worth the 2 spots. It really is. Yeah. So tell me your thoughts on Adam.
Yeah. So towards the beginning of the game, I would, like in beta, when I would stream and stuff, I would always say Adam was S tier. Obviously, I don't think that he's S tier, but people sleep on him.
Yes.
Because of that draw. And honestly, man, some of the combos you can do with Adam Warlock to make him last almost the entire game by turn 3 is disgusting. Like if you go Sunspot, or let's say the one that I would always try and do was Ant-Man and then Angela and then Adam Warlock, Ebony Maw. And
it's yours.
It's going to take them 5 turns to beat that location.
Yep.
And then if you have other things that help support it, like obviously sometimes you could switch in armor in there if you're afraid of the Sunspot and all that kind of stuff. But we were talking earlier about Devil Dino. If you're winning that location still with Adam Warlock at the end of the game, your Devil Dino gets +2 because it draws out after the game. And people aren't expecting that. They're not expecting that +2 power to come in there. And so a lot of times people will calculate, okay, they're playing Devil Dino. They're probably only going to play 1 card. So we tie this location. Cool. I'm going to work on these. And then Adam Warlock is like, oh, that's cute. And then he draws another card for him. And you're able to win that location.
He's like the Dracula, Morbius play. I can't tell you how many times I see people lose to the Morbius location because Dracula does 1 last discard. It's the exact same thing. It's those little interactions, and I 100% agree. But even chasing your own Warlock lane with continual Guardians is such a fun idea as well, because that's definitely, they're going to be playing there, right?
And one that you mentioned earlier when we were talking before we started recording is Juggernaut. And just the fact that, okay, I play Adam Warlock. If I have that other power on there, even if it's that Yellow Jacket play, so turn 2, Yellow Jacket, Adam Warlock, and then you throw down Juggernaut, it's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, not only are you removing a card that for them fit well in that location. Yes. Like they were like, okay, this is a card that's perfect for this location. Yep. You've now moved that to another location. Now maybe they don't have anything else that can counter Adam Warlock quickly enough, and you've added 3
and
power.
you added 3. Yeah, exactly. That's a great, 100%. And Juggernaut was one, that was going to be talked about as well on this list because Juggernaut gets some play in Silver Surfer. But guys, like Juggernaut is, you don't get to pick the location, but talk about a card you can use any point of the game. Juggernaut can win you games, guys, because it can lose you games, but it can win you games, bar with no name outside of just location luck. But if you can anticipate where your opponent's going to play, talk about a card that I think can get more play that I don't play enough either. Let's wrap it up, guys. I will state now that if you're an audio listener or if you're watching, and again, you don't want to know anything, we do know that Marvel Snap has a dedicated Discord channel for this. They're very well aware of it, and these cards have been leaked out really since beta, and these are all subject to change, but these are cards that are going to be coming to Marvel Snap in the foreseeable future, and I think it's great for a few reasons to look ahead. Number one, hype. Number two, it's great to see kind of where the meta is going, especially as more cards come out and those token purchases become more important. And I'll go back to number 3 is hype. So let's go ahead. We kind of both picked out some cards. And to do some plugs quickly, again, a huge thank you to Molt. I know Molt, you've done a bunch of videos talking about these upcoming cards, and I just released one today, actually, to wrap up my series on it. So I did it in 2 chunks, right? So if you guys want to go check out our complete thoughts and hear different opinions on them, you can go there. But let's talk about unreleased cards that you think are just like, they're huge impact cards, either for an archetype or just for the Marvel Snap playstyle in general. I'm going to let you start it off.
Okay. So the one that I like the most has, it's a little risk reward. Okay. And I think those are some of the most fun cards to play because when it works, and it's really exciting. I think you can kind of see that now with Titania, however you say it. There's potential for there to be error there and for your opponent to benefit from you playing that card. This one's the same. So it's Silk, and its current stat line is 2/5, and it reads, when anyone plays a card here, move this to another location. Okay? So for me, as someone who loves move cards, I just think about how insane Kraven is going to get with this card. And just the potential, like 2/5 is a solid stat line, and that could win you, like that could win you the game, being able to move 5 power to a location. Now, obviously it says move to another location. So there is that 50-50 chance of kind of messing up and throwing you into a bad position. But 2/5 is a solid stat line. I already love move and think there's a lot of potential with move. And so when I first saw this one, I was like, yeah, I am really, really excited to experiment with this card and can't wait to see it in action.
Yeah, she's really fun for the move archetype, but at the same time, I like it. Okay, you have 2 things going on. You have, again, a card that your opponent is then going to say, okay, maybe I kind of need a play here to move this card, but then they don't even get a pick where it's going. And then for you as well, like, oh, I lost this lane, like time to, to get out of there. And then Kraven, Miles Morales, their new best friend as well. The next one, I'm going to start out with the one that just kind of blows my mind. Like this one, I think is going to be one of the most shifting cards for archetypes. Talk about discard and destroy lovers, Night Nurse. Now, Night Nurse, guys, is a 2/2. She has an on-reveal ability. Add all cards that you've discarded or destroyed last turn back to your hand. And this is something to digest because, first of all, I think Hela is going to get better by the month. And this is one that I think is going to work in kind of cheat Hela decks or cheat. And what I mean by cheat is like get them out there early or cheat Galactus decks as well. But Molt, getting cards like Nova back after you've done a Killmonger bomb. Or any Venom deck for that matter. You eat any card and it comes back. What are your thoughts on Night Nurse? I think she's a bit more risky for discard because she could be discarded, but what are your thoughts?
Right. Yeah, no, when I look at Night Nurse, my initial thought is the Destroy Shell as well, just because there's so much potential there for things that you can bring back, like bringing back another Bucky Carnage, one of the most iconic duos in the game. that like throws big power down on the board. Being able to bring that back and do it again is insane. And like you said, Venom, if you're lucky enough to where, because I've had games like this where you get Central Park, all those squirrels, and then you get Savage Lands, and then you Killmonger, and you're like, dope. I'm gonna play Death right now and Venom it on turn 3. You play Night Nurse, you get the equivalent of Death back in your hand. It's already 0,
Yeah,
and you can
zero
throw it
already, right? It's 0 again. Yeah, like it would.
Yeah.
That is because Carnage. Carnage wouldn't work, right? Because Carnage destroys. You need the one that got destroyed, correct?
Oh yeah, Carnage would be gone. I'm sorry.
But you get the Bucky back, and you can redestroy.
You get the Bucky back.
Yeah, 100. But the Death played early.
Insane.
This is something that I think is so, and I also think it's balanced in the sense of like. Your hand size is only so big, so you can't get everything. Like, let's say you use Killmonger and Squirrel Girl, and then you like kill something else, and then you use it. Like, you could just get the squirrels in your hand. Like, there could So like, I think there's some balancing acts. But yeah, man, like that to me.
I didn't think about that.
I know it's fun. This is a card that I think has it just boosts the mind thinking, and honestly, if I'm being candid. The kind of straightforward gameplay of Destroy. I think this adds more dynamic to it. And Venom finally getting a bit more love because, he's good, but this is going to be awesome,
yeah, so much potential with it. And I would be interested to see how it works with Arnim Zola.
Right. Well, it's going to work. Well, so as far as the, to explain to everyone, it works at my deck tracker. The game categorizes Death as one thing. It's graveyard, technically, right? And so I get to see all the time, like what pops in there, what makes it pop in there. And funny enough, like I think it's Mysterio, it like kills the original Mysterio and then puts them all out. Like that's how that one works too. But as far as Arnim, it destroys. It's 100%. So how you put them on 2 locations and then you get the copy back so you could have 3 locations. Like
if you could somehow with magic play Arnim and then I don't know, you'd almost have to do like I don't know if there was a scenario where you'd be able to do it. But Project Pegasus or something, like a location that allows you to do something absolutely insane and then bring it back. So much potential. Night Nurse, when I saw that, I was like, ooh, there's some potential here.
Yeah, for sure. Give me another one. What's another one you got?
All right, so one of the other ones, which we both talked about earlier, which seems absolutely insane, is Hitmonkey. And Hitmonkey would currently work in this archetype as well. So Hitmonkey is a 2/0 stat line, which obviously we know all of these are bound to change, and I imagine this one would.
This has
Hitmonkey, literally. Hitmonkey reads on reveal, gain +3 power for each other card you played this turn. Now, obviously, there's some insane potential there. But one thing that I'm excited about with this card is that it brings back to me like the old school Sarah, where you play Bishop and stuff like that. Like new school Sarah, where people are playing 3-cost cards and Surfer and all that kind of stuff. Mr. Negative Sarah, everything. I miss the old school Sarah where it's like, final turn, I'm going to play 6 2-cost cards because I'm a savage like that. That was when I fell in love with Mojo, was final turn Mojos and everything with Sarah. So much fun. Man, the things you can do with Hitmonkey, that's your win condition right there.
Dude, the stat line, it's so crazy.
It would be 215.
It's a one.
You had that many cards to play, but
yeah, but you usually do in those kind of decks, right? So like, and then what's crazy is like Mysterio counts as 3 played cards. So like, so I'm telling you, Bishop, Hitmonkey, Mysterio, new meta. Like that's it. That's like the shell.
Oh my gosh.
Killmonger, Nova, and then you blow them all up, boost them all up. Hitmonkey is gonna be. I hope. I don't know where he's gonna be released, but like, whoo, he's gonna be fun. I'm glad you brought him up. He's one that I'm like, if he stays, we're gonna have some fun.
Yeah.
Good. So I also want to bring one up that is also from the first set that I did, and this one's not earth-shattering by any means, but I want to bring her up because I think her playstyle is a lot of fun, and talk about Adam Warlock a bit too. Elsa Bloodstone. So check this out. She's a 1/1, guys, and at the end of each turn, if you're winning that location, she gets +1 power. Now that's not crazy. I get that's not too crazy, but it's kind of for a 1-cost card that you can continue to invest in. What I'm excited about it is I do love the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I do love Adam Warlock, and this kind of just plays into that, like, this is my lane, right? Like, I'm going to win this
Right.
lane. And I love that what she brings for playstyle for a 1-cost card.
Yeah, there's so much potential there. Just anytime that you have something that gradually gets bigger, that people always have to be thinking about in the back of their head, because there's so much to think about in this game. And if you miss one thought process, which we talked about earlier off the podcast when it comes to streaming and stuff, like, you're just distracted. And if you're distracted and you forget about the fact that Elsa by the end of the game could be very big, like, adding that 5 power, I guess is what it would be. Like,
Yeah.
that's huge. And you can't leave it alone. Like, you have to answer that type of card. And you see that with Collector and things like that. Cards that start off small that have potential to really challenge your opponent. And they always have to be thinking about the fact that it's growing.
Right? And like the mind game of like super flow, like you're like, okay, I don't need that +1 power. My opponent will not play on super flow. So I'm going to continue to get that power. Yeah, so kind of interesting. I thought she has a lot of unique play there. Excited to see how she turns out. And for another like video one to pop up, Negasonic. Now, Teenage Warhead, guys, it's a 3-cost, 2 power. When any card is played here, destroy this card. It's like Eternal Bridge. And that card. And they both die. They're gone. Dude, what do you think about this card? Like, first glance.
I see that being played final turn with initiative as a defensive card, to where, right? So when any card is played here, destroy this card and that card. So you're winning a location and you want to continue to win it for 3 cost, final turn, you can throw that down on that location if you have priority and guarantee I'm going to win this, because if somebody else plays something, their card's gone.
Exactly. It's a card that can... Okay, so you have 2 things that work for it, right? Number 1, if you don't have initiative, you play it on turn 5 on a location you know they need to play in. If you do have initiative, you play it on turn 6. Or what's even crazier is, let's say you need something destroyed. You need a little bit of extra power. You do the Negasonic into Bucky Barnes and a Sarah Miracle deck, something like that. Because this is for both. This is for you, too. You can use this on your side as well. And so it's... you gotta love a tech card that has purpose both ways, and this is one that I don't think needs change. I think this is perfect, but I also think this is gonna make people so pissed off. Like, it's gonna be tough. Let's each do one more. Do you got another one for me?
Yeah, so the other one I was going to mention, let me find it on here, but it's Kang.
Yeah, okay.
So
I was hoping you brought up Kang. Okay.
I know that a lot of people have seen Kang, have seen the artwork and all that kind of stuff. So Kang is a 5/0. On reveal, it reads, look at what your opponent did, then restart the turn without Kang. So the way that I read that is you play Kang and you commit to playing it, and then it shows you what they did. Kang goes back into your hand. So you never have to have that 5/0 stat line out there. It's just committing to it at that point and then replaying from there. So it's kind of like a Daredevil type thing, to where you see what they're doing. It is super late in the game. And I think you could see people play this on turn 6 as well, especially if you... Like, say you don't have initiative and you have a Shang-Chi in your deck or something like that. You play this down, you bring it back. It's like, cool, I know what they're going to reveal. I know where they're going to reveal it. I can take it out. I think it's super cool, and there's a lot of potential to do some big plays, especially, oh my gosh, Mr. Negative.
So,
dude, you could play it so many times because it comes back to your hand, right?
The card does?
Does it? Does it get destroyed after you play, or does it go back to your hand?
Kang's gone. As soon as you play it, you get 1 Kang.
Okay.
But
imagine.
But with that, yeah, I know, right? You can just keep on. But the thing is about Kang, right? And this one, Living Tribunal, we're not going to talk about. That one, it does, like, it splits your power. I think these two, if you don't know, these are the Marvel, like, these are so the big bads, Thanos, Galactus, they're never going from pool 5. Kang and the Living Tribunal, those will never go out of pool 5. I think these are the next, like, kind of Thanos, Galactus. They are going to be very careful, I think, on A, how they release them, and B, when they release them, because they're both kind of mind-blowing. Like, Kang, I look at Kang, and it's like, why would I not want Kang in all of my decks?
All of your decks, yeah.
All of them. Because here's the thing. Also, I just realized it's an on reveal effect. I got to get rid of that because then I can absorbing man that the next turn. Like, what? But I think we'd have to see how that works. But essentially, like you are, this is a get out of jail free card. 100%. You can see what the big wow play is, and you can, like Daredevil, when you play him and then you're doing the little reading the mind and you snap, your opponent's like, I'm getting out of here. Kang, you get him in your hand, you snap because you're like, I have nothing to lose, for the most part. Kang to me, oh boy, Kang to me seems very fun. Very fun, very interesting, and I think he's going to bring a lot of meta play. And I actually never thought about what you said where you could play him on turn 6 or heck even like wave him in if you think turn 4 is important or, whatever. Kang is definitely an interesting one, and I think he's calls problems to what I think Mr. Negative will do in this game. Because how do you balance it? It's a tough call. But definitely like Kang. Now this last one is kind of the same flavor of like just a card that I think is like just makes you think. And I think I know you've talked about it, but we both have to talk about it at this point. Guys, Mr. Mephisto is a card that to me it's another one that as a content creator, I don't know if I ever won't play with. Like it's one that I think I'm always going to have because what it does, it is a 6/0, 6 cost, 0 power. If you win this game, double your winnings. If you win this game, double your winnings. Now, we obviously have never seen anything like this. There's a lot that we don't know, obviously, on how it would work. I think they keep this. I don't think they're going to change. I think this is a good foundation of a card. And the thing is, what blows my mind is if you win this game, it doesn't say the stakes are double. It just says if you win it. So you're not going to lose more cubes. And like, yeah, a lot of people think like, okay, like Mr. Negative, that's where you can use it. But Molt, I feel like if you cheat this thing out and you snap turn 2 and you cheat him out on turn 3 or 4th wave, and you've got like the combo, all of a sudden you are committing them to 4 cubes. Like minimum. What do you think about Mephisto, man? Mephisto.
It's crazy. I think what's going to be interesting, and this is besides me playing it, is I think we're going to start seeing speed runs. Oh, yeah. Where, like, people do with Minecraft and stuff. It's like season resets, and people are like, boom, who is going to get infinite the absolute fastest? And Mephisto can give people 16. Like, are you kidding me?
16?
That's insane.
That's so many cubes, man. 16.
It's insane.
I feel like garbage. Like I sometimes like go outside and look at the sun if I've lost like 4 cubes like twice in a row, Like 16 cubes that is mind blowing, man. And I think that it's what's cool about it too is like, let's say Devil Dino, or that you're just like you're winning the game most of the time, and you don't even need your turn 6 card. Like you could just play Mephisto and then Mephisto, and that's why he's not only needed in Mr. Negative deck. So he's one that blows my mind.
Yeah, I think it's going to be absolutely ridiculous, and it's going to be super cool, and it's going to help you like rebound from some things. I do think a lot of people will try and get it in before that turn 6 just to scare people or intimidate them or anything like that, but man, it's going to be ridiculous to see how much people can win and how quickly they can do it.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing. I've looked at now all the unreleased cards, and I think most of them, because again, just to touch on the thing real quick of like Darkhawk and Pool 5, he's tough. There's not a lot like that where it's like, wow, this is like just the most value card. A lot of them just bring crazy interactions, and that's what I'm excited about, and that's what I'm excited to see. And we're going to have to see, how each one comes to the game and how they plan on launching these cards. But it gives us a good hope for archetypes. We'd even talk about move. As much as I do, there are so many move cards coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I know Ghost Spider over there. You get all steamy just thinking about it.
I'm so ready.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have a whole bunch of variants already made. So they're committed to it, and that it's coming out, which makes me happy. Because it's like, oh, this one has 6 variants. That's going to be a season pass card. So I think not this coming season, but the next season will be a move season. Absolutely. I hope it will.
Yeah. Oh, me too. I know. We need one since Miles for sure. Well, guys, I've got to say, first of all, Molt, hey, thank you so much for stepping in for Alex, guys. Molt and me talk a whole lot outside of just Snap. Two guys cut from the same cloth, and also, again, we're from different timelines, same person. So it's very easy. If you do want to check out all of Molt's content, I'll put his link in the description below, and you guys can go check out all the great stuff that Molt does. And you guys are going to see a lot more of Molt. Me and him plan on doing a lot of great creative battles and videos, and just super easy to talk to you, man. Any closing notes on your end?
No, man, I appreciate you having me. I love this type of stuff. I love picking people's brains. I was an art director before I started doing YouTube, and one of my favorite things was sitting down and brainstorming. And so just hanging out and chatting about the future and all that kind of stuff, dude, it gets me going. I love it. So I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you guys again for stopping by. If you have not, leave a review on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Helps a ton. Cannot stress that enough to help support the Snapchat for absolutely free. You guys have a great one and a good one. Until the next one, happy snapping.